The movie opens up as a middle-aged woman named Stephanie records herself live on Instagram. She seems to be making some kind of announcement, and her followers are excited to hear it. Following this, we are taken to the past where Stephanie is with her family and friends inside a bowling club. It is her 14th birthday and she narrates about how moving to the US from Australia was a difficult step for her. Being a foreign kid, everybody made fun of her. She further mentions that the ultimate goal of her school life is to be popular. As Steph is having fun with her friends, she spots a popular guy named Blaine and immediately gets hypnotized by him. Unfortunately, he is with his arrogant and egocentric girlfriend, Tiffany. Despite this, Steph gathers up some courage and approaches the duo to ask them if they'd like to join her birthday party. Sadly, Tiffany makes fun of the party and takes Blaine away. Frustrated with her life, Steph vows to herself that she will become popular at any costs. And with years passing by, she works hard and becomes the leader of the cheerleading group. Now, she has a lot of friends and has even hooked up with her dream boy, Blaine. In the next scene, a 17-year-old Steph is preparing to go to school and her best friend, Seth, is waiting for her downstairs. Turns out that Seth has a major crush on her, but he is too afraid to let his feelings out. Before leaving, Steph's father, Jim, hands her address that her mother left for her before passing away. Steph becomes emotional and decides to wear it at the prom happening in a few days. On the way to school, Steph comes across the home of her idol, Diana Russo, and stops. Diana was the prom queen of 95 feet and has been living the perfect life, beautiful body, a great house and a handsome husband. Steph envies their life but is hopeful that one day, she and Blaine can replicate it. After this, she discusses with Seth about the upcoming prom and how much she despises Tiffany. Steph is quite confident of being crowned the prom queen and she has already arranged an after-prom party at her friend, Martha's lake house. In class, Steph finds out that Tiffany is also holding an after-prom party and gets jealous. She immediately confronts her in the restroom and the two start arguing. Later, the cheer group, Bulldogets, is getting ready for a practice session in front of the entire school. Martha, being the equipment manager, tries to instruct the group on how to do well but Tiffany interrupts and bullies her. This enrages Steph and she makes a mockery out of Tiffany in front of the entire group. After everyone is gone, a distraught Tiffany starts plotting something with two of her friends. Soon, the performance begins and the group starts dancing graciously. Despite having their differences, Tiffany and Steph also give their best and the audience seems to be loving it. Near the end of the performance, Steph leaps in the air for her signature jump but unfortunately, the two girls push the boy, who is supposed to catch Steph. As a result, she drops to the floor and the screen fades to black. The movie then cuts to 20 years in the future, where Steph suddenly wakes up from her coma in the hospital. She notices several birthday presents near her bed, some of which are for a 37-year-old. Confused, Steph leaves her room and ventures outside. She approaches the receptionist and asks her if there's been a mix-up in her room. Right then, Steph sees her transformed self in the mirror and passes out, leaving everyone stunned. Later, the doctor reveals to Steph that it is 2022 and she had been in a coma for nearly 20 years. Meanwhile, Jim and Martha arrive at the place. They are overjoyed to see Steph back after 20 long years. As Jim is hugging his daughter, the doctor suggests he take it slow as Martha is still a 17-year-old mentally, despite having the body of a 37-year-old. Following this, Jim and Martha decide to take Steph home. On the way back, Steph is taken aback to see a smartphone, which she mistakes for a small TV. She is also shocked that some words that were common in the past are too offensive to use these days. Martha then reveals to her that she is the principal of Harding High School, the same school they both attended. Just then, Steph spots a grown-up Blaine. But surprisingly, he is at Diana Russo's house. Confused, Steph asks her dad to stop the car. But when he doesn't comply, she jumps out of it. She then goes up to the house but gets shocked to see Tiffany come out of it. Tiffany expresses her delight at having her friend back, and also reveals that she got married to Blaine and her parents bought the house for her as a gift. Despite this, Steph still wants to meet Blaine. But Tiffany makes an excuse and tells her to come later. An annoyed Steph reaches home, but as soon as she enters her room, she gets emotional to find out that Jim has preserved all her belongings. At night, someone knocks on the door, but when Steph goes out, she finds no one around. Instead, she finds a book, which was sent by her best friend, Seth. She opens it and finds several pictures of her at school. This makes her emotional, and she remembers her late mother, who always believed that she could do something big. With this, she gets renewed motivation and vows to herself that she will again become popular. The next morning, Steph approaches Martha as she is about to leave for school. She then reveals her desire to join Harding High School and complete her studies. Martha tries her best to convince her friend that she is too old for it, but the latter is adamant in her decision. Finally, with no choice left, Martha agrees to let Steph join school again. In the next scene, Steph gets ready for her first day at school after 20 years and leaves the house full of confidence. However, on reaching, she finds that the place has changed a lot. Everything has become student-friendly, so that it doesn't offend anyone. For instance, the prom winners list is replaced by a piece of art, because it sends the wrong message. Right then, Steph bumps into Seth, and the two are delighted to see one another. Turns out that Seth is the librarian in the same school. After a bit of small talk, the two head their ways, but not before promising to catch up soon. Following this, Steph meets up with Martha in her office and requests to join the Bulldogettes cheer group again. She mentions that she wants to join the group so that she can become popular and ultimately win the prize of prom queen. Sadly, Martha mentions that the school doesn't have a prom queen anymore. Hearing this, Steph becomes sad, but she is not yet ready to give up on her dream so quickly. She heads to the cafeteria with a petition paper to bring prom queen back. There, she meets 3 students, Janet, Yaz, and Neil, who are immediately impressed by her persona. Steph hands them the petition, and the 3 gladly sign it. However, she quickly learns that no one else would sign it, unless the most popular kid in school, Bree Loves, does it first. Turns out that Bree is a social media influencer who has more than 3 million followers on Instagram. She has a popular boyfriend, Lance, and the two are regarded as untouchables in school. Soon, Bree approaches the group, and when Steph asks her to sign the petition, she denies, claiming that she is paper-free. Before leaving, she mentions to Steph that she's Tiffany's daughter, which surprises the former. Later, Steph heads to the playing ground and finds out that Martha is the cheer group coach. Janet and Yaz are also in the group, but they are performing some sort of cringe routine, which makes Steph laugh. Turns out that the school banned all forms of sexy dancing, as it was offensive to some students. Frustrated, Steph heads to the library and meets up with Seth. There, she learns about the wonders of Instagram and how one can become popular through it. Hence, she goes home and pleads with her dad to get her a phone, but surprisingly, he already has bought one for her. This delights Steph, and she spends the whole night live streaming herself. Now, she has only one goal in her mind: to gain more Instagram followers. The next day, Steph and some other students are group studying at Janet's house. However, the only thing that is on her mind is being crowned the prom queen. Hence, she gives her friends an inspirational speech on how to become popular and even makes them dance to her favorite moves. In the next scene, Principal Martha is hosting a ceremony where all the students along with their parents have gathered. Soon, she hands over the podium to Tiffany, who turns out to be the head of the PTA Association of Harding High School. Even here, she shows her selfish nature by announcing that the prom tickets will cost a massive $93. Now, it's time for the dance performance of the Bulldogettes, led by Steph. They come on stage and start performing a boring routine, which is based on the usual equality BS. However, they quickly change their outfits and start dancing in a sexy manner. This surprises all the parents in the audience, including Tiffany, but Blaine seems to be impressed by it. The next morning, when Steph wakes up, she finds out that her dancing video has gone viral and now she has a lot of followers on Instagram. She heads to school with a different swag, and everyone seems to like her now. However, Martha accuses her of ruining the ceremony with her erotic dance moves. In defense, Steph says that she is trying to make the school more fun. She claims that living in the coma was much more fun than going to Martha's school. Elsewhere, an enraged Tiffany approaches her daughter and orders her to reinstate the prom queen. Furthermore, she wants Bree to take part and beat Steph for the crown. Bree denies swiftly, claiming that she isn't interested, but when Tiffany warns to ground her, she has no choice but to agree. Meanwhile, Steph and Seth are out on a date, where the former expresses her desire to become the prom queen. She becomes emotional and mentions how her mother always believed in her, and this is why the goal is extra important in her life. Hearing this, Seth decides to be her prom partner and support her. The next day, Martha announces that on Bree's requestee, the school is reinstating the election for king and queen at prom. This delights Steph and her group, and they start planning for the event. However, Steph soon finds out that Bree will be pitted against her for the crown. In class, all the students except Steph get an invitation from Tiffany for an after-prom party. Frustrated, Steph decides to announce her own after-prom party. She heads home and frantically searches her closet for something. After a while, she finds the keys to Martha's lake house, goes live on Instagram, and announces that she's hosting a free party after she wins the prom. In the next scene, the prom night has finally arrived and Seth is waiting for Steph to get ready. There, he has an awkward conversation with Jim, who suggests he carry protection. Just then, Steph arrives, wearing her late mother's dress. Seth is stunned by her beauty and they click a lot of pictures before leaving. At the prom, Steph spots Tiffany at the voting booth and starts taunting her. She even votes for Bree, saying that she's confident that she'll win. After this, she goes outside to start a live stream but bumps into Blaine. Blaine starts seducing her, but as Steph is trying to push him away, Seth catches them in action. He walks out of the place disappointed, despite Steph trying to stop him. In the meantime, the prom results are announced. Lance is crowned the prom king as expected. However, Bree withdraws from the election at the last moment, leaving Steph the eventual winner. Everyone cheers for her in tandem, including Bree, but Tiffany is left speechless. Soon, Lance and Steph put on their crowns and perform a wonderful dance, impressing everyone there. After the event, the students head to Steph's after-prom party. At the lake house, everyone enjoys themselves in the wildest way possible. Meanwhile, an envious Tiffany calls the police, as she is still furious at Steph for ruining her plans. In no time, the cops arrive, forcing the students to flee from the place. Martha also arrives and berates Steph for putting the school's image in jeopardy. She then storms away from the place along with Seth, leaving Steph alone and sad. With no one to drop her home, Steph takes a lift but gets shocked to find out that Diana Russo is the driver. Turns out that Diana lost her husband, wealth and fame once she turned 30. She mentions her regrets for being obsessed with popularity, when she could have studied hard and become something. Hearing this, Steph realizes her mistakes, and when she reaches home, she rips out all her posters. The next morning, a distraught Steph heads to the kitchen but Jim cheers her up by talking about the importance of family and friends. The speech convinces Steph to apologize to Martha and Seth, and this is when she goes live, as shown at the start of the movie. She gives a heartfelt apology, revealing that Seth and Martha were only the ones who supported her when she was new in the country. After the stream is over, Tiffany surprisingly arrives outside and issues an apology of her own for all the troubles she has given to Steph. Although unusual, Steph accepts the apology and the two reconcile. The next day, the school is hosting the graduation ceremony. All the students are called upon stage, and when it's Steph's turn, she expresses her gratitude for having a friend like Martha. Following this, the entire dance crew, including Tiffany, Martha, Seth and even Blaine, start dancing to Steph's favorite moves. This surprises Steph, but she can't help but join the group. At last, she performs her famous jump, and this time, she lands perfectly. The movie ends as Steph and Seth finally make out and express their love. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.